Hey everyone, how you doing? It's Upman Joe, and today we're going to do a quick unboxing and review of the new Microsoft Xbox One Elite controller. So let's get into it. So for those of you who don't know, Microsoft has now come out with their own Elite controller. It's basically just another type of controller that you can buy for your Xbox One. It's very similar to a Scuff or a Cinch gaming controller. They've put paddles on the back. You can swap out thumbsticks. You can remap buttons to paddles on the back or just remap buttons in general. And it also has built-in trigger stops. Now, I did pick this up from Amazon.com. It's selling currently for $149.99. I will leave a link down in the description if it's something that you'd like to get. But I want to do today in this video is quickly just do a quick unboxing. We're going to hook it up to our Xbox One. I'm going to play a game with it, then come back and let you know what I personally think about it. And we'll also do a comparison to a Cinch gaming controller, since I no longer have my Scuff controller, but it's pretty much the same principle. So let's go ahead, dive down, take a look at an up close and personal, the unboxing and what's in the box, and then we'll go ahead and hook it up to our Xbox One. Okay, so this is the box for the Xbox Elite wireless controller. You can see up here it's got Xbox logo down at the bottom, Elite wireless controller, and a picture of the controller. Over here on the side, it's got basically some of the stuff that it comes with, and then on the back some more details about it, customize your experience, fire faster, things like that. So let's go ahead and open this thing up. I've already cut the little safety seal down here on the bottom. I thought I cut the safety seal. There we go. Get that off like that. Put this off to the side. Okay, so here we have our case here down below. We'll look at that case in a minute. So we've got some user manuals inside of this box here. Set of batteries. Something else in there. Oh, we'll open it up from the other end. Okay, we have a braided USB cable. Put that back in there. I have one already. I don't need to hook that up right now. Put that in there. Let's go ahead and open up the controller itself. Okay, so this is the controller. Okay, so just taking a quick look at this controller here. What they've done is they've added some cool features. First thing, these thumbsticks are now quickly removable, and they allow you, if we pull in the case here, to change it out to any of these other thumbsticks. So they give you some domed thumbsticks and some longer thumbsticks. So for example, we can go ahead, let's say we want to change this thumbstick out from the concave thumbstick. We can go ahead and put on a domed thumbstick. It's just as simple as that, and they're all magnetic and metal. So we're going to go ahead and put this one back on there. In addition, you can swap out your little D-pad button here, so we can just take that off there, and we can put a racing style on there. So that's a cool little feature there as well. Okay, we'll change that out. Over here on the back, we have our paddles. So you can see they have 4 paddles here. They are in a very good place, very comfortable to press your paddles on them. And they also come off. You simply take it like that and it lifts right off. And if you want to put them back on, just kind of put it in the slot and put them on like that. It doesn't look like they're going to knock off that easily because there is a magnet built in. So even if you go too far, you can see it doesn't fall off of the controller. So over here are our trigger stops, and you can see here there's 2 settings. There's this lower setting and this upper setting. So we have them in the upper setting. That is our full range of motion of our trigger stop. So we can see here we press our trigger and it goes all the way down. Now if we go ahead and flip this button down, now our trigger doesn't go as far. So it's basically a built-in trigger stop. I like that feature. I like the fact that it makes it so easy to just up and down, flip it back and forth instead of having to do any kind of a screw or anything like that. So that is a nice little feature that they've got on there. Other than that, the only other difference between this and the other controllers is up here on the front, you're going to see a 1 and a 2 button. And what this button does is it allows us to save profiles. So, for example, let's say you're playing Call of Duty and you want to have your buttons on the back and say, like, instead of like the way I play, where I have this one here is B and this one is A, and then I make these left and right D-pad. Well, maybe you want to play with having these upper ones X and, A, or X and, Y, or whatever you want it to have it as. You can go ahead and change those to whatever you want. Now, let's say, for example, you have another game where you want these to be completely different. Well, instead of having to go onto the Xbox and change everything out, you can simply save it to a profile and program it. And now, let's say if you're just playing Call of Duty and now you go, you know what, I don't want to play Call of Duty anymore, I want to play Halo. You can just flip it over to 2 and have your controller all set up for Halo. Now, overall, just holding this device, this thing is heavy. It is very heavy. Now, just comparing the Elite controller to my Xbox One controller, you can obviously see they're the same size. They haven't changed anything like that. But I will say this is a much heavier controller. So if we look at the back of my Cinch Gaming controller, I have 4 buttons. You can see the 4 different buttons. And it's basically set up so that I can press, I have my one finger down on the bottom buttons, and then I can quickly move it up to the other button. Now when you go over to the Elite wireless controller, they have 4 paddles and it's set to have all of your fingers on there. So you would basically have your bottom finger controlling this button and your top finger controlling this button. Now I will say that holding these in my hand, it is very comfortable. It's right where my fingers rest. But I will also say that it will take some getting used to use this, because I'm so used to having just 2 fingers flip back and forth. So these are resting right on my fingers. I am worried as I play that I'm going to accidentally squeeze it. These things seem to be very touchy. It's not taking much to just press this button in. You can see I'm hardly doing anything with this, and it is pressing and engaging. So I'm curious that as I go ahead and play, is this going to affect it? Am I going to press it by accident too much? It's kind of awkward to have my fingers so far out from the controller. The only way I'm really going to know is if I actually go ahead and play. Okay, so just to take a look at a difference in the weight, we're going to go ahead and weigh out this Elite controller, and it comes out to be 10.9 ounces. And then I'm going to compare it to my excellent Cinch controller, and I'm using this one because this one does have the rumbles in it, and it comes out to 8.1 ounces. So a major difference between the 2 controllers weight-wise. So let's go ahead and hook it up to our Xbox, and then we will play a couple games with it. I'll come back and I'll let you know what I think of it. So I've already hooked up my Elite controller to my Xbox One by syncing it, and simply press the sync button on the front of the controller and the sync button on your Xbox One. We don't need to teach you how to do that. Yes, I've been playing Call of Duty Ghosts. Kind of had fun going back and playing that game. We're going to go down and we're going to download and install an app called Xbox Accessories. We'll go ahead and open that up. It says connect the controller to get started. I've got one connected, and we're going to see a picture of the controller. And we can go ahead and hit configure. And here you're going to see here config 1, config 2. So let's make a new configuration. We'll call this COD. Hit OK. And we're going to go down and actually configure it. So right now the back paddles are A, B, X, Y. So we're going to go to back button mapping, and we're going to, our controller button, what do we want to map it to? So we're going to go controller button, and let's see, I want the left bottom button. So we're going to go lower left paddle, and I want to map it to, let's say I want to map it to my fire button. So let's say my right trigger. So you can look down here on the bottom, and now the right trigger is controlled by my left bottom button. So you can pretty much do whatever you want and have your buttons remapped whatever you want. I'm going to go ahead and change this back. I'm going to set this up the way I want it. So we're going to have my controller button A. I want controlled by my bottom, I'm sorry, I'm doing this backwards. So the controller button is the button that you're actually pressing. So I want that controlled by the lower left paddle. And we're going to map that to the A button. Then I want my lower right paddle to be my B button. So you can see how it changes on that picture. Then I want the upper left paddle, I like it to be my D-pad. So we're going to go down to D-pad left. And then I want the upper right paddle to be my D-pad right. Now I have the controller set up what I want. I can just hit done. Then we can go down here to sticks, triggers. So if we have my left stick, you can see here I can change the sensitivity of my stick. So let's say, for example, I can make it smooth. Now you can see how it does it. It's a little bit smoother. You can look at where I'm moving it to and where the button's going to. Or we can go over to, let's put it back over here. We can make it instant. So now if we move it, like, look at how quickly that moves. So if you move it, it just quickly moves. We can go to delay. And you can see, look at the delay as I move my thumbstick. So different features you can do like that. We're going to go back to default. Now we have our triggers. The same thing, we can adjust our trigger. So you can see there's our full trigger. But if we go over here, we can move this down, and now all of that beginning becomes dead zones. So as I press it in, it does nothing. It's going to do absolutely nothing until I get to down here. So different things we can do with that. We're going to go ahead and move that back up. You can also do mirror left and mirror right. Then we can have our vibration. We can turn our vibration up and down as we want. And as I do this, it actually lets me feel the vibration on the controller. I know you can't see that. And you can feel it again in your hand as you're adjusting it. And you can adjust the left and the right separately. Then we're going to go down to Xbox One brightness, and we can change the brightness on our LED. Unfortunately, they didn't allow you to change colors, which is, kind of unfortunate. It would have been nice that you could change colors. Now we can swap sticks, so we can move our left stick and our right stick. That's kind of a neat feature. We're not going to do that. We can invert our axis. We can swap our triggers. Once you've got everything set up the way you want, I'm going to go ahead and save it. So now I can save it to slot 1, save COD to controller profile slot 1, and now it's on that button. So now after we have that done and it's saved in slot 1, let's say, for example, we want to play Halo 5 Guardians the campaign. So we can go ahead and hit the Halo 5, and we can save it to slot 2. We're going to go ahead and hit save. And now when we go back, you're going to see up here it says slot 1 up here is COD, slot 2 is Halo 5 Guardians, and we can simply switch it back and forth. You can see as I move the button, you can see what I'm switching it as. See, it's off and on. Some different things we can do like that. That's a pretty cool feature. And that's pretty much how to hook this up. Now I'm going to go ahead and play a couple games with it, and then we're going to come back to FaceTime, and I'm going to tell you what I think of it. Okay, so that's the up close and personal for the Xbox One Elite wireless controller. I've showed you how to hook it up. I've showed you some of the up close details. Now I did go ahead and I played with the controller for about 2 hours. I played some Advanced Warfare, and here's what I have to think. I don't like it. Now, this is just a personal preference. I'm not you. You're not me. You may love the controller. Personally, I don't like it. It's a heavy controller. This thing is heavy. Now, I showed you on the scale, there is a major difference between this controller and this controller. And it's going to be the same thing. I know this is a cinch, so it doesn't have paddles. Go ahead and check out with a scuff controller. You're going to see the same thing. It's a very heavy controller. The controllers are heavy. It has rumbles in it. Now this one has rumbles in it too. If I go ahead and compare it to my cinch controller that doesn't have rumbles, there's a major difference between the weight. But the other thing that adds to the weight of this is that all of these parts here, all of these removable parts, they're all metal. Great idea. It really is a good idea to have, like, for example, these thumbstick things, they're metal, because they're not going to wear down. You're not going to have that problem with some of the Xbox One controllers. Like, if you can look in on these, you know, if you look in there, you can see that I've had a little bit of rubbing inside of there where it's wearing away the plastic and you have to change out the thumbstick. So having the metal is a great feature, but it adds to weight. So this thing is very heavy. My other problem that I have with this controller is these are very sensitive. They're super sensitive. As I'm playing, first of all, again, it would take some getting used to, some practice, just like when you first get a scuff controller or when you first get a cinch controller, it does take some practice to be able to get used to using those buttons. And for, you know, years I've been just playing like this and have two fingers and I'm able to just move my finger up and down like this if I want to press the upper buttons. Whereas with this new controller, now all of your fingers rest, so you have to remember like this, or this, and this. But though the paddles are in a good position here, you can see where my fingers, they're in a good position. These paddles are super sensitive. I mean, they are super sensitive. A lot more sensitive than a scuff controller, and a lot more sensitive than even the cinch controller, so it makes it not natural. And I'm finding as I play, I'm accidentally like, you know, I'm like playing like this and moving back and forth, and all of a sudden like somebody comes and sometimes your natural reaction is to kind of jump as if you're actually jumping out of the way, and I'm squeezing the controller and I'm doing all kinds of funky things. It's very sensitive and there's no way to adjust that sensitivity. So that's just, again, my opinion. Now, are there some positives to this controller? Yes. I think they've come up with some great ideas. And I know some of these other companies are doing the same thing. You know, the fact that these are now removable, great idea. You don't feel like playing with them, no problem. I don't have that issue as much with my cinch controller because they're buttons and they're built in and they don't get in the way. But if you have a scuff controller, I completely understand where those paddles might get in your way. And I believe scuff has now even made it so the paddles are removable. The swappable thumbsticks, I think they're a great idea. Again, my problem with this controller is it's very heavy. It's a very heavy controller. The other thing that I really like about this is, and it's probably my favorite feature of it, or two favorite features. One is the ability to be able to save profiles to it, so you can just flip the switch back and forth and change profiles. That's a great idea. The other thing I really, really enjoy is these trigger stops. I'd love to see, you know, Scuff and Cinch come up with a better trigger stop mechanism, whereas instead of having to take off your grips or adjust a little screw, you simply have this little switch and you flip the switch and now your trigger stops are off. It would make it a much easier, and I'm sure these companies are going to come out with something like that. You know, there's not a doubt in my mind at it. Like I said, these companies are innovative, and the bottom line is Xbox, we all know, has created this controller because of companies like Scuff and Cinch, because these companies have gone out and, you know, paved the way to having these customized controllers. So when it comes down to it, what are my opinions? I think this controller has some great pros. It has some great cons. Would I go out and buy one tomorrow again? No. I absolutely wouldn't. As a matter of fact, this is going back to Amazon. I just don't like it. I find it extremely uncomfortable to use. And in the end, it comes down to comfort. I'm going to stick with my Cinch controller. If you want to get a Cinch controller, I will leave my coupon code down on the bottom. It's UmpmanJoe. You get 5% off. I'll also leave a link for the Microsoft Elite controller if you want to pick one of these up. I'm not trying to discourage you from buying one. This is just my own personal opinion. I prefer this controller, even with rumbles. I find it more comfortable than this. And then when I pick up my one that doesn't have rumbles, it's night and day. So that is my video for today. Hopefully I've helped you out. Hopefully I've helped you make a decision. If you are considering purchasing the Elite 1 controller, please do me a favor. Hit the like button down on the bottom. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And until next time, happy gaming.